us on Facebook at Daunta Alone. Follow us on Instagram at Daunta Long. Follow us on YouTube at Daunta Alone. Thank you for tuning in to Long Talk.
Good evening, and welcome once again to Long Talk on this wonderful evening. I'm so happy to have this opportunity, as always, to talk with you and to have meaningful dialogue. For Long Talk is the effective and efficient way that we dialogue to accomplish wonderful results. And I am happy that you have decided to tune in. And I'm grateful that you're sharing this time with us here on Long Talk. So if this is your very first time, I would that you would take just a moment and connect with us here on Long Talk. You can do so by going to Facebook. If you go to Daunta Long, or if you go to Instagram, also go to Daunta Long. If you are on Twitter, please do so after this broadcast. And on many of our broadcasts, we do hang around on Twitter to answer any additional questions that you may have. Also, if you go to YouTube, you can hit that subscribe button and stay connected to all things Long Talk. So please, ma'am, please, sir, go ahead and connect with us here at Long Talk. I would greatly appreciate it, okay? Thank you. Listen, while I've got your attention, I want to make you aware once again that we are in the middle of election season once again. You say, no, Daunta, we're in the middle of holiday season. That is so true, but we're also in the middle of election season. And starting this Monday, we'll begin early voting here in the state of Georgia. Now, I know many of you are watching from all over the country, and you have even heard about the significance of this historical time in which our state will be appointing two Senate seats in the United States Senate, and both of those seats are up for grabs here in the state of Georgia. And so please, as you did in the late part of September and October, as you went out to your local precincts and you participated in an unprecedented fashion in the early voting, I am soliciting you to do the same once again beginning this Monday. So let's get out there, let's get to those polls, let's cast our votes, and let's allow our voices to be heard because this is extremely significant. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for that. And then I want to make you aware that all of this will commence because the day of the actual election is on Tuesday, January the 5th. And so I'm going to ask you to be aware of that. Okay. All right. January the 5th. Well, tonight, as promised on Tuesday, we are here tonight to talk and have a meaningful dialogue. As I always say, meaningful dialogue is what we are all about here at Long Talk. And so tonight, we are so grateful to have, as I call her, the resident life coach. She is here once again, being such a benefit to all of us and many of you that have been watching over the last few weeks. Even as recent as this past Tuesday, we received so many people saying that it was a significant blessing to their life. So she's here once again. She's back to help as many of us as she possibly can. Friends, please help us welcome the life coach, Miss Monica Jackson. How you doing this evening?
Everybody, we are so happy to be tuning in with you this evening. We have some great things that we're going to be discussing tonight. So I want to give you an opportunity to click like and share this video. And I want to also encourage you to invite a friend, especially your loved ones or your in-laws, co-workers. I believe everybody will have an opportunity to take something away, some golden nugget that will help you get through this holiday with a smile. So tonight we're going to be, again, of course, talking about ways that you can alleviate stress during the holiday, but also as it relates to in-laws. because a lot of times what happens during holiday, there is a merging of your extended family. So we're going to show you how to grace them this holiday season and still keep a smile on your face and keep a smile on their face.
Monica, I am so excited. All day yesterday, all day today, I've been getting so many messages and calls about this, what we're going to discuss tonight, talking about tips for embracing our in-laws in this holiday season. As so many people have said to me, boy, I got some questions. And so tonight, I'm sure questions are going to be flooding in. And if you have questions tonight, go ahead and submit those, because we want to get to as many questions as we possibly can. But tonight, Monica, if you don't mind, let's just jump right into this, because so many people want to know. And first thing I want to ask you is, when we're talking about these in-laws, we place so much focus on the in-laws, but we don't realize the product of the in-laws, which is our mate, right? For me, that's my wife. I'm thinking so much about my mother-in-law, thinking so much about my father-in-law. But at the end of the day, while I may have emotions, good or bad, towards my in-laws, I must first realize that the most significant thing is the product of my in-laws, which is my mate, right?
Absolutely. And not only is it the product of your mate, but one of the tips I want to discuss tonight is to have respect for your mate as it relates to making holiday plans. So often, Dante, especially when we enter into a marriage, 5 years down or 5 years upward, we all have traditions that we've had from a little child, especially if you're like only two or three siblings. Then the impact is harder, as opposed to like I'm a family of nine. I'm actually the baby. So,
and I am the only child, Monica. I am the only child.
Okay. So, there's a lot of dynamics. But the first thing, ladies and gentlemen, I want to encourage you, step number one or tip number one is to be loyal to your mate. And what do I mean by that is, to our listening audience, respect the decision of what's going to take place during the holidays. So sometimes we'll jump if we receive an invitation, but I believe you have to kind of make sure that you confront or discuss with your mate. So before you can give a reply, Dante, sometimes you may have to say, hey, give me 3 or 4 days. Let me run this by Mary. Let me just make sure there's no other plans on the books. And so just respecting your mate or being loyal to your mate, because that is your first love, and although, yes, mom and dad want you to come to the mountains or do a ski trip or the annual farm trip, giving respect to your mate and being loyal to your mate goes a long way. So that's step number one.
So we've got to remain loyal to the one that we said I do to, right?
Yes. And if you want to be happy after Christmas.
But my mother-in-law wants to go here, and my father-in-law wants to sit down. And while I'm trying to make sure that I accommodate them, because, they are senior in age, if my wife is not on either one of those sheets of music, and if I don't read her sheet of music first, you're telling me that it's going to be a bad tune, huh?
Oh, you're going to be dancing to a lot of tunes, but it won't be the melodies of her heart. So I want to encourage you and to our listening audience tonight to it's a simple step. Be loyal, have that allegiance to your husband or to your wife. Make sure you discuss it with them. Make sure that they have input, because if not, then the road ahead could be quite shaky. So, and you don't want that. Holidays is meant to be celebrated and have family to come together. So the thing that you don't want to happen is to have friction in your home because of the decision that you made, whether it was traditional breakfast or lunch at Aunt Yolanda's home or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
All I'm saying is, make sure you respect your husband or your wife by discussing it, number one, and before you accept a holiday invitation.
Wow. Wow.
So that's number one. Number two, make a decision. So step number two, tip number two, make a decision and make it early on that even when invitations are starting to come in, Dante, you already know you have these plans in place. So a
Yeah.
lot of times our in-laws, our beloved extended family, everybody want to gather, have a good time, go ice skating, go
Yeah.
mountain hunting, all of those good things. But you got to learn how to make a decision, stick with it. So when those invitations come or suggestions come, you'll be like, well, you know what? Tom and I already had plans. We'll catch up next year, or maybe we could do something for the new year. So that's
Mm.
step number two. Make plans and make a decision. And if all possible, stick with it.
I'm making my note right now, Monica. Making my note right now.
And then number three, recognize that you can't be all things to your in laws. When you took up your covenant vows to your family, that was to your spouse, to your immediate family, and then to your extended family. And so often, especially women that been married for like 5 years under, you want to really please the family. You want to stick with any traditions that they have had, but you have to also realize that you can't be all things to your in-laws. Sometimes you have to say, hey, this is going to be our tradition that we're going to start in our home. And then maybe next year or year after, we'll kind of, because you want to establish, especially if you're newly married, you want to establish your own traditions before you even start branching out to other traditions.
Monica, so ironic that you bring up that point. I'll never forget when my late mother-in-law relocated from Atlanta to
Mhm.
Tallahassee, while the rest of the family was running to be with her. I told my wife, who I had just was getting ready to marry, as a matter of fact, hey,
Mhm.
why do we have to run? And she looked at me. She said, we don't. And I was expecting her to
Mhm.
go where her sisters were going, where her aunt was, where her mom was, where her grandfather. And not that I was trying to pull her away, but I said to her, why don't we start our own tradition?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was only a year later that my mother in law passed away. And at that point, she said, I really don't even want to go down to Tallahassee because if I go down there, it's going to
That's
remind me
right.
too much of my mother. And she said to me, I'm so glad that we put this new tradition in place because it is helping me alleviate some of that pain that I
Yeah.
have associated with her moving and with her new residence.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so another tip I want to share with you all is make people aware of your plans immediately. So if you know already in June that you're going to do a certain thing with your family, whether it's stay inside, whether it's bake, whatever your plans is for the holidays, you want to make sure that you communicate that, especially to your in-laws.
Mm.
Maybe they have a fishing trip, all male fishing trip, or maybe you want to take a trip, to see some type of game or something. But you want to communicate your plans, ladies and gentlemen, ahead of time, so that way people don't get in their feelings. Well, they waited till the last minute to tell me, or they know we do this traditionally. This has always been the Browns' tradition. This has always been the Jacksons' tradition. What do you mean? And so if you take it upon yourself to make sure that you tell, hey, you know what, the Mister and I, this is what we're planning to do. Communicate, especially to your in-laws, ahead of time what your plans are. Well, this year we're going to go see this side of the family. And it's
Mm.
okay because when a man and woman comes together, there's two families. So that means it's two traditions, it's two expectations, and so it's two families that you have to really bridge together and to make sure that everybody stays happy. So that would be another tip that I want to share with you all. Make sure you communicate, especially to those in-laws, um, what your plans are ahead
So,
of time.
and Monica, you brought this up the other day that this communication really is the only key. It's not just an essential key; it's the only key.
It's the
And
only.
I confessed to you on Tuesday, and I'm even working on it. I had some things happen yesterday, if I could be as transparent, to say that talk to your spouse immediately. Here I was feeling all happy yesterday, inviting people over for Christmas, and she looked at me and she said, when did we decide that?
Yes.
I
Because
said, babe, but it's just my, she said, yeah, I know who they are. They family, but I'm
Right.
your wife. And I
Right.
thought about what we discussed the other day, that the communication is the only key. Well, as I told you Tuesday about finding our way home, even that resulted in a good laugh. But I'm thinking about how easily that could have disrupted while I was trying to be working on what we talked about Tuesday, working on pre-planning and not just extemporaneously doing everything. I was still missing that essential key, which was to communicate. And now you're saying that really communicating and pre-planning go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand, and it goes back to that first tip of being being very loyal to your spouse as it relates to planning for the holidays. So, in other words, don't make plans without them knowing, unless it's some kind of traditional, trip that you all take. But make sure, especially when it relates to in-laws, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, nieces, nephews, anybody in that extended category, you want to make sure that you convey that to your husband or your wife. Absolutely. And it's all about communication. I would even say over communicate. Hey, sweetheart, and start counting it down, 10 days and we're going to be out of Los Angeles. Can't wait. And so it's constantly before them. It's football season. There's a lot of competing priorities that are going on. So you can leave little stickies on the door, 8 days to a fabulous Christmas. And that would help kind of jog their memory. Oh, okay, yeah, we are going on this trip, and get everybody excited about it.
Wow. Monica, we're going to take a break. But when we come back, I really want to put some sauce on this meat because I want to stay home and watch basketball on Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother-in-law is interested in going to the log cabins.
Oh, we're going to talk about it.
What should we do?
Absolutely.
We'll be right back after the break.
Okay.
I want to talk to you about the stakes in this election as plainly as I can. If we're going to get this virus under control, get folks back to work, and make sure affordable health care is available for everybody, we've got to send people to Washington who aren't interested in playing political games or making themselves rich. We've got to elect folks who will get to work for people like you. That's why I'm supporting Reverend Raphael Warnock in the special election for Senate. Reverend Warnock's someone I've known for years. He's a man of great moral integrity, a leader in the truest sense of the word. He's spent his life pushing for justice, fighting to expand healthcare, protecting voting rights and the dignity of work. You don't find a lot of people in Washington like Reverend Warnock, and that's exactly why we got to get him there. Please join me in supporting Raphael Warnock for Senate.
I'm Raphael Warnock, and I know we can do better. That's why I approve this message.
We're back here on Long Talk this evening with our resident life coach, Miss Monica Jackson. And tonight we're giving tips for you, husband, and for you, wife, to embrace your in-laws. Yes, I'm talking about your mother-in-law. I'm talking about your father-in-law. Yeah. And things that we can do to make sure that we not only satisfy them, inform them, but make sure that we hold on to a healthy holiday with our significant other. But Monica, we got a problem.
Mm-hmm. Let's solve it.
On Christmas, the NBA kicks off.
Mm-hmm.
It's a quadruple hitter. Put me on the couch in front of my big screen TV with my remote control, and let's go for it. I want to see LeBron. Steph Curry's back from injury. Durant should be back from injury. It's going to be 3 to 4 solid games But we did talk, when they had that family meeting last week. Oh, Lord, here they go with them family meetings again. Now they talking about going to the log cabins. What must I do?
Well, Dante, there's a couple things that we can do. First off, it needs to be with the backdrop of number one, being sensitive. Sometimes it's not easy to bring everybody in. One thing about sports, we know there's people that love sports, and that needs to be respected. Whether it's sports, whether it's any type of hobby. Christmas only comes once. It's a special day that everybody wants to come together. So I will unpack that as to say the game is on only a certain hours, and it kind of goes back to communicating and planning. All right, so we know the NBA is going to be on for 3 or 4 hours. So then let's plan a breakfast, or let's plan something directly after that so you can get to the mountains. Or sometimes you got to compromise. So when I say compromise, meaning, okay, they may want you to come to them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for breakfast. But what you can do is say, hey, I'll come to Elma's house for breakfast, but on New Year's, we're going to do this at home. So you're kind of, you're being involved with family, but you also, you're kind of towing the line to say, hey, we have things that we want to do too. So in addressing that situation, I would definitely communicate ahead of time. Hey, ladies, you all know it's, NBA season, NFL season, or whatever it is. And I want to be on the couch. So I think if you just communicate that and you let your mother-in-law know, hey, listen, Mom Harriet, I would like to just kind of hang out a little bit, rest, or do you guys mind if you go without me? That's another option. Or can we explore other options?
Will there be a big screen television in the log cabin?
Well, see, now that goes back to, all right, so if you know ahead of time that from the family meeting that this is what they want to do, you can go on and Google, cabins in the mountains, and kind of take a virtual tour to see what's in that cabin. So you can be like, oh, okay, well, they have a, flat screen TV. I always tell my clients, everything doesn't have to be an argument. And number two, you have to pick your fights. You got to pick your battles. So if you can jump ahead of the game and say, I'm going to take a virtual tour of this property and just see what they have, and then you're good.
And Monica, now that I think about it, let me be honest. I don't have to watch all 4 games.
Right.
I really only want to see LeBron and Steph. Yeah. I'll catch Durant next week. James Harden, I don't even know if he's going to show up. I'll catch him when he decides to come on. You're back.
Right. Well, you know what, Dante? Sometimes you have to look at the situation. So for those who are in our audience tonight, if your parents is a newly widow, where, there's a mom or a dad that just recently passed over the last 2 years, let's say 2 years in all fairness. So now that parent that has been married for decades, this is their first holiday, and people have really turned social distancing into social isolation. And so with our vulnerable population, mom and dad, you definitely have to be, and there are in-laws, but you have to be sometimes a little sensitive to their situation, especially if it was a recent passing of a mother or father.
Sure. Monica, I remember very early in my marriage, my wife and I made a deal. Thanksgivings belonged to her family. Christmas belonged to my side of the family, if you will. And as we have had both the matriarch of her family and the patriarch of my family go on to be with the Lord, we've even made some more modifications to those days. Because as you said, one of the most kindest things that my wife said to me is right after my father died, she said to me, tell your mama she can even come with us to what we're doing on Thanksgiving. I said, say that again? She said, tell your mama to come on.
Wow, that's so heartfelt. That's
Michelle, if you're
heartfelt.
watching, you know how I feel about you, babe.
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. Those better for worse moments. You know, sometimes the situations are just that. And sometimes you do have to compromise, but you could think ahead and plan ahead, that you keep everything smooth with your in laws because, again, it is two families that are coming together. We call it extended family, but yet and still they have their expectations. They're subject to disappointment because
Oh,
everybody now want to see the kids, especially if you have smaller children that blends the families. So you have a lot of different dynamics when it comes to bringing people together for the holidays. You may have children that you have custody over, that come to you for Thanksgiving or come to you for 6 months out of the year that you now have to plan for. So it becomes a lot. And again, if you communicate, you plan, you prepare, you execute, that equals having a great holiday. It really does.
Monica, I know this is so trivial, but I promise you it happens more times than not. What are we going to do about Aunt Kathy's potato salad versus Cousin Vera's potato salad?
Okay, so I believe in having rules when it comes to really dealing with in-laws. So a lot of us now are on the vegan or the keto diet, and we really don't like her, string bean casserole anyway. It's soupy. It's just really not good. So what I always encourage people to do, Dante, is that provide just kind of suggest, hey, would you like me to bring the green salad? So that way you automatically know you're going to have something on this menu that you can eat. Instead of a lot of us do is sit there and text other people at the table, and you're like, oh my God, these sweet potatoes don't have any sugar. They don't have any cinnamon and butter. And you're just going back and forth texting because I'm guilty of it. Uh, but what you could do to help that situation, so you save everybody, from not having their feelings hurt, is just to recommend, hey, I make a great keto sweet potato pie, or I make a great keto pound cake. Can I bring the dessert? And by the way, it's going to be keto friendly. And so that way you've already squashed that, because we can be very critical, especially of our in-laws, and especially if there's a little friction. But tonight we want to help you really embrace your in-laws, get past some of the holiday drama and the holiday challenges.
Monica, you just don't want to eat my food. Come on, stop being you just don't want to eat my cake. Why don't you just be honest about it?
Well, you know what? Most times people probably don't want to eat your cake, or they don't want to eat your food. In fact, they don't even want to be at your home. However, this is a part of your extended family. This is your husband's sister or his aunt or his niece or what have you. So you just have to learn how to kind of compromise. And that's what I recommend, that you just say, hey, I'm going to bring this dish. And then that way, nobody is, because we know everybody can't cook, Dante. We already know that. People
Monica,
cannot
you didn't
cook.
just say that on Long Talk. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
They cannot cook. And I tell people all the time, it's okay to follow a recipe. It's okay to Google a recipe and follow it. It's a lot of cookbooks. So, but the holiday, everybody want to whip out all their how-tos, and so, yeah. So again, because that is your husband or wife's side of the family, you want to keep everything on the up and up. And so, everybody make macaroni and cheese different. Everybody make a ham different.
Yeah.
So, and it's learning to embrace, I tell people often, don't major in minors. You're only there for a couple of days or a night or overnight. It's not like you have to eat the food forever, people.
Monica, say that. How long are we going to be here again?
Just a couple of days, maybe 24 hours. So,
Oh, man.
you
What a
got to pack
relief.
the family and the dog up, and you out of there. So, I understand Aunt June lives in the woods. It's dark out there. It's in the boonies, but it's only one day, guys, and it would just make her heart.
Monica, I don't know if you're looking, but the minute you said it's only a day, I just seen about 40 hearts just go up on the screen.
One day. That's it.
Long talk audience, come on, guys. We're better than this now.
Yeah.
Come on. Don't show your hand, because your in-laws are watching. I'm sure my
Absolutely.
in-laws are watching tonight. Listen, Dad, I wouldn't mind being there a whole week, even though I know you. I know it's more. Let me shut up before I get myself in trouble.
Well, but it is, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about. And another tip I wanted to give to everyone is that family matters.
Yeah.
During the holiday, keep the main thing the main thing. Get you some rest, get you some relaxation, enjoy your family, and don't be pressured. Don't be pressured to go to your in-laws' house. If it's not working out for you this year, if plane tickets were too high, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's a little different because we're in a pandemic, or you just don't have that time, or you may only have 4 days off for our educators. You may only have 3 weeks off. And if you don't want to go, tip number 2 was to communicate ahead of time.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, Aunt Belle, this year I think we're going to go ahead and stay home. And if she know in advance, she don't have to worry about buying a bunch of food, and then maybe sometimes you can invite her over. On Tuesday night we talked about establishing new traditions. In this holiday and even in this season in life in 2020, you want to pick your battles. Everything doesn't have to be a argument. Sometimes it gets real funny with extended family, but you really have to love. You got to love them through some things and love them, embrace them during the holidays. Everything, it'll pass over. It surely will.
And Monica, I want to end on this note, a note that I took down. This whole idea of, and you said this previously, learning how to be sensitive through it all.
Absolutely.
Talk about that for a minute, if you will.
Well, learning to be sensitive to other people's situations. So again, sometimes if it's a widow or somebody that's newly divorced, where you've always had big traditions in the family, but now the family's kind of split or separated a bit. So you have to be sensitive to situations and circumstances. But that doesn't mean that you just lay down, your whole desires as it relates to the holiday. But just being sensitive to what, if a person is newly divorced or they may have had surgery 10 days before Christmas, where they're not able to cook and entertain. So that means you may need to now invite them over. And these are kind of like common sense things, but sometimes we just need to know that being sensitive will go a long, long way.
A long way.
Invite your in-laws. I know I'm getting ready to get stoned by this, but invite your in-laws to some of your traditions. Hey, Aunt Nettie, why don't you come on? Such and such is going to be in the school play. Then we're going to kick things off by lighting a tree. And sometimes you need to invite your in-laws in, and that will help you build that cohesiveness that so many family dynamics need. Because truth be told, sometimes with the in-laws, again, things can get a little upheaval a bit. Not that we plan it that way, but again, you're dealing with extended family, different traditions, different ways of growing up. So invite them into the tradition, and you'll find out that they will begin to embrace you, especially when there's children involved. They will embrace you. And then, you know what? The final tip I want to encourage everybody this holiday season as it relates to in-laws, learn how to communicate without offending.
Say that again, Monica. Say that again.
Learn how to communicate to your in-laws without offending. Okay, so yes, you forgot to put the Christmas cards in the mail. So when they see you, don't act like, oh, you didn't get my card. Oh, you didn't do this or you didn't do that, or I didn't get the invitation. Learn how to disarm a situation before it even happens. And that's the tone you take. That's how you approach a person. Sometimes we say it in jest, but always learn how to confront without offending. Learn how to disarm a situation.
I guess the old folks was right when they said it's not always what you say,
But it's how
it's
you say
how
it.
you say it. Wow.
Absolutely. It's how you say it, it's the tone you say it. And then sometimes it may catch that in law off. Maybe they've had a bad day, maybe they received some news they were not expecting. So sometimes you got to go in, Dante, and assess the situation before. Oh, I didn't get no invitation. Everybody in the family got an invitation except me and my children, you know. See if I show up again. But it's reality. That's how we say it. That's how we. I've always got Christmas gifts for her and her children, and now they didn't get Jonathan anything. So I think sometimes our expectations are so high when it comes to Christmas, especially for adult children or children that have moved on, like yourself. Now you've started your own family, your own tradition. So that has to be respected. I know it's funny, but it's true.
I got to be transparent once again. I'll never forget my first child when we found out that my wife was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were breaking the news to my in-laws, we were at family dinner. And all throughout college, a lot of my college roommates will tell you, we used to sit up and just watch movies for hours and hours and hours and hours on end. And we find delight and humor in quoting just complete lines. We could say them verbatim. And here I am quoting a line out of the Malcolm X movie to inform my mother-in-law and father-in-law that my wife is pregnant. And after I got finished quoting the movie line, everybody just looked around like, what's wrong with that boy? And while I thought I had really set the stage because I had practiced this line, my wife looked at me and said, why couldn't you just say we're pregnant?
I know, right?
You live and you learn, Monica. You live and you learn, right?
You live and you learn, and you also have to learn that your in-laws are actually a gift from God. They're your extended family, but they're a gift from God, and they can help you through, raising your children, giving you advice, and just really fostering great, healthy relationships. But sometimes we got to get through life challenges, especially things like the holidays, where it's already emotionally charged day, for some that has experienced any type of loss. The emotions are already high. What they didn't receive for Christmas, or if they received, it was the wrong thing. So, it's a lot. Parents have spent out thousands of dollars to bring smiles to the little faces on Christmas morning, only to find out 5 days later when those credit cards hit, woo, those bills coming in.
And those toys get tore up a few days later.
Absolutely. Listen, when I tell you, you see it every year. It's like, oh my goodness, so you work hard. So it's already emotionally driven day. So make the best of it. Make the best of it of your holidays, especially with your in-law. You'll find that things will go really smoothly with your spouse. It's nothing worse, Dante, than having a spouse that don't like your mother. You talk about a wicked Christmas, So we have to learn how to work together. We really do.
Oh my goodness. Monica, this has been just, I don't even have words to describe.
Yeah.
Remarkable, informative, eye-opening, all of those attributes to tonight's Lone Talk. And while we've done a lot of laughing and while we've done a lot of note-taking, I think the most important thing is that this information will be transformative to helping all of us have a more healthy holiday, right?
Absolutely. Just simple things, knowing that you're not everything to your in-laws, being loyal to your spouse, communicating, just some simple things that can really help you. And that's what this is all about tonight, is helping you embrace your in-laws.
Yeah. Great. Monica, the old saying is true. You don't just marry the person.
You marry that whole entire family.
You marry the entire family, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you just need to know that you will have some better or for worse moments, not only with your spouse, but also with your extended family. So when those happen, you just have to detect it, move upon it in a positive way and learn how to confront without offending. That's going to help you. Learning how to
Confront
say thank
without
you,
offending.
learning how to confront without offending. I always say thank you. Maybe you're right. I didn't see it that way. Goes a long way as it relates to dealing with your in-laws.
And I'm sorry goes an extremely long way. But I didn't do anything
Extremely.
wrong. I found out, Monica, to be apologetic is one of the quickest diffusers given to you and I, right?
Absolutely. 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 Just saying I'm sorry. Or, oftentimes people say, if I offended you. Well, you already know you offended them because
Monica, say that again. Say that again. Help somebody.
we use that word if
If.
I've offended you. And it's in good context because you're trying to diffuse a situation, but
Yeah.
you already know, so you can take it out of the equation. And just go in. Hey, listen, when I said this, I realized I hurt your feelings. I apologize. Full stop. Or when I made that comment about, your side of the family can't cook. I'm sorry. I should have been more sensitive.
I could have saved that comment to when we got home.
Exactly. 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 And so sometimes, of course, in marriage, you're trying to figure out what works, what are some sensitive areas, because everybody's very protective, Dante, of their family.
Yeah,
Don't talk
yeah.
about my mom, my dad. Those are thresholds. Do not talk about those people. But you have to communicate that because you have in-laws, you know. You have, and sometimes, you know what, even if you want to make a joke or if you want to make a comment, say it jokingly so it doesn't go over so hard. Like, your mom is not the best person to make potato salad, but I'm not going to tell her that. And just kind of like laugh it off a little bit. I mean, there's ways that you can communicate. You can, don't talk about a person's mom or their look or their wig.
And Monica, tonight, I hope that we've helped somebody move from just dealing with their in-laws to
Yeah.
embracing them, right?
You want to embrace them. They're here to stay. They're part of your life. So, you have to grow with them. You're going to be in some of the same social circles, professional circles. You're going to be at the same anniversary events. The
Birthday parties,
graduation,
retirement parties,
the whole nine
family
yards.
dinners,
So why not get
baby
along?
dedications, funerals. Man,
Absolutely.
it seems like there's
Absolutely.
always something going on, right?
Something always going, always. And then you know what? I'm going to say this. You do have certain dynamics where if a loved one has remarried, but they have children, so that brings the kids and that mother or that father back in the equation around holidays. So when they show up to the holiday dinner, and the
Hmm.
new wife or the new husband is there. Come on, somebody.
It's
You
colder than the water in the ice bucket, right?
Absolutely. So you have to figure out, okay, remain respectful for everyone, especially if they're inside the home or they are coming to visit to drop off gifts, that nobody kind of like cross nobody's path and something blow up.
Yeah.
So again, learning how to really communicate, what we talked about, being sensitive, especially if that husband or that wife have moved on and now there's a new spouse, but you have to come together for the holidays because the kids are there, at least until they're 21, 22 years old. And then, of course, when they start having babies, then you have grandkids. So that's got to be downloaded in the equation. So it's just best to really be centered and say, I'm going to work hard to get along
Oh,
with my in-laws.
I'm going to do what, Monica?
Work hard
I'm going to work hard at it.
to get along with
But,
my
Monica, I don't want to work hard at it.
I know, but you have to, sometimes in life, you have to will yourself to do things. Why? Because it's going to make your children, your grandchildren, all of those generations that's coming from out of that union, it's going to make their lives a whole lot easier.
Wow.
So you don't have to live with your in-laws. You just need to be able to get along with them when you come together.
To embrace them and not just deal with them, right?
Right. And
Right.
not send little crazy text messages.
Monica, this conversation has been therapeutic because even in some of the comments that we were receiving earlier in the day, where people say, I'm tired of dealing with. Because one particular, and I'm not going to reveal who it was, and I took note here. How do I tell my mother that she offended my wife?
Ooh. Now, what you don't, two things. You don't want that offense to fester, because if it festers, it will turn to bitterness. If it turns to bitterness, it goes into resentment. If it goes to resentment, it goes to emotional detachment. And you're going to have two wars on your hand. So I will let mommy know, even if I have to bring her some flowers, take her out. I would take her out to dinner, take her out to breakfast, take her out to coffee, and say, you know what? When you made that comment, Janice was a little offended by it, but you have to hit it dead on. Don't skirt around it, because what happens is your wife is going to start pulling back, and you don't want that. You want the mother and daughter to be happy. So yeah, definitely just find the time, and don't just allow it to go on for 6 months, a year, 2 years, because I'm telling you, it won't. Offenses do not go away on their own. They're presented to be addressed, and so it can be dealt with and diffused. It's go on and on and on and on, and you don't want that. So absolutely. He needs to, and remember, he needs to first be loyal to his spouse. So we talked about that in point number 1. Make sure whatever you got to do to protect your wife, protect her emotional being, her psychological being, her relational being. You as the man, absolutely. And if she was offended by your mother, brother, aunt, uncle, sister, whoever it is, protect her or protect him. Absolutely.
Last one. This one just came in, and I know we got to go. I really don't want my kids to play with their cousins because they have an effect on them that I don't appreciate. What should I do? What should I do?
Well, a couple things you can do. You can find out and really just take an assessment of what it is. Is it bad videos that they listen to? Is it something the kids now are big on YouTube, TikTok. What influences are your kids receiving that says that this child is responsible for their behavior? I think you as a parent have to take the responsibility to say, okay, my child could do this, this, and this while they're in your company, but they can't do. So number 2, set healthy boundaries. I don't think you have to necessarily pull kids apart, especially if they're cousins. You just need to be able to establish healthy boundaries. All right, so we're going over to Jackie's house. You all know you can't play in the road. You can't go upstairs without me. So you're going to stay in the great room or the living room. Even if you got to go to the restroom, communicate details before your family even get there. You'll find out things will happen,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So definitely establish those boundaries.
Monica, this has been a great conversation. I hate that we have to bring this to a close, but will you promise to come back next week and talk to us a little bit more?
Absolutely. I plan to be right here at the same time Now, next Tuesday, we're going to be talking about, helping you get through the holidays. And we're going to dig a little deeper in relationships because there is dynamics as it relates not only to Christmas, but to every day. And so we want you to go into 2021 understanding what your key emotional needs are, understanding how to communicate what you need from your spouse and what you don't need. So we want to definitely invite you and your family, your friends, your spouse, and those in-laws to next week's segment.
Oh boy, can't wait for it, Monica. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us once again tonight.
You're welcome. Looking forward to seeing everybody on next Tuesday. God bless.
God bless. God bless. Thank you so much. Friends, what another wonderful conversation here tonight. Tips for dealing with the in-laws to create this healthy holiday. Pray and trust that you walked away from this long talk with something that you can put in your toolbox to really make this one of the best holiday seasons and the best special days of celebration that you've ever had in your life. That's our goal. That's our objective. That was our purpose for bringing you this meaningful dialogue. And I just pray and trust that you will take advantage. Go back and listen to this again. I say this all the time, but with all sincerity, share this with somebody. You've got some coworkers who are going to be talking about this over the next few days. You all are going to be typing this in the DM. Boy, I can't stand. Oh, here. And so what you need to do is just allow this long talk right here, this one that you're watching right now, allow it to be a resource tool for somebody else that will need it as they enter into this holiday so that we all can have a wonderful holiday season. Okay? Well, I want you to enjoy the weekend. We'll be back here next Tuesday. Monica's going to be with us again. We're going to have more meaningful dialogue. Tune in, stay connected as we continue to have meaningful dialogue here on Long Talk. We'll talk to you again soon. God bless.
Follow us on Facebook at Daunta A. Long. Follow us on Instagram at Daunta Long. Follow us on YouTube at Daunta A. Long. Thank you for tuning in to Long Talk.